So I want to start ES6 in JS ES6. Now these are some of the topics we are going to be covering under ES6. Declaration, destructuring, okay. So these are some of the topics we're going to be covering in ES6. So let's start from the first one. See, most of those things you're going to be learning in this ES6, they are just syntax, most of them. Although there is a bit of logic, but then most of those things you're going to be learning will be syntax. That is, you are going to be learning another way to do what you already know how to do. Another way to do what we've already taught you to do, but in a shorter way. Most of those things in ES6 is usually involve maybe shorter codes. We are going to be writing shorter codes, but doing more things. Less code, more results. Okay. Let's pick the first one, variable declaration. Okay, we still have discuss this too. So variable declaration. Now, before now, we've been using var and let to declare variable, have we? Please, are we together? We've been using var and let to declare variables. Hello? Please, are we together? Oh. Hello?
Hello, sir.
Oh, sorry. I think I lost my network at a point.
Okay.
I said before now, we've been using var and let to declare variable. Abi? Can we hear me?
I can't.
Yes, we can hear you.
Ìgbà tá a dá mi lóhùn ni.
Miss Wonka. It's Miss Wonka.
Okay. So let's discuss the difference between the two. Difference between var, difference between let. And we're going to be adding another one called const. Var, let, const. So now, first is let's discuss the difference between var and let. When you create a variable using var like this, let's say var name equals to Taye. I can recreate it. I can say var name equals to Kende. How many containers do I have on the page?
Two containers.
Good. 2 containers. Thank you, sir. Now, although the two of them have the same name, but then we have 2 containers. If I say alert name, this is your alert Kende, not Taye. That's because this is the most recent container and it's going to replace the last one. Like, you're not going to see this container again. Instead, it will start seeing this. So this will alert Taye. That means this first container is now useless. Are we following?
Yes, sir.
Now, let's now do this another thing. How many containers do I have here?
We have one.
Good. One container. Yes, sir. We have only one container. The only thing is we are only changing the content of that single container from Taye to kind, but it's just one. We are only changing the content of that one container. Now, one of those, this is a problem in JavaScript. This one, look at it. The creating container like this, meaning this first container is now a waste. So that's why let was introduced. With let, you can't recreate a container. You can't. So I've already created the container here. I cannot recreate it again. Do you understand? Like two containers which cannot bear the same name. Show you why.
Yes, sir.
Two containers cannot be, except if maybe one can now be a global variable, while the other one will be a local variable. That's possible. But aside that, two containers cannot bear the same name. You see, this is already showing error. It's already giving us error message. That's because these two containers, they have the same name, and with let is not possible. Any question? Check out this, Raju. Okay. So next is this. But then you can change the content of your container because this is still one container. It's just a single container. You're only changing it. With let, you can change the content of your container. You can. Just that you can't recreate the same. Like you can't recreate or you can't give two containers the same name, but you can change the content of it. Another difference between let and var is scope. The scope at which they work. What does that mean? Now, if let's get a variable here.
So we can't hear you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Hello, sir. We can't hear you.
Hello, can you hear me? Everyone.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Hello, sir.
Mrs. Abelonka, I think it's your network.
We can't hear you.
I think it's your network. Okay, let's move on. So we have variable, let's say variable value is 6 like this. So we can say if var, let's say equals 6, then we can now create a new variable name equals to Taye. Then I can now say, let's do something. I'll first use var so that you understand the difference between the two of them. I'll come here and now say alert, my name is name. Do you get what is going on? If I run this, what do you think I'll see? If I run this, what do you think I'll see? Hello. Hello. Damn alone.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
So, we will say Taye is 6, right?
How?
Sorry, my name. We will say my name is Taye.
Okay, thank you, sir. You say my name is Taye. Variable name is variable var is 6. That one is also not append. Mrs. Zonka. Mrs. Zonka. She can't hear me. Okay. So variable var is 6. If var, Mrs. Abelonka, you're holding up your hand. You can ask your question. Okay, she can't tell me. I think let's continue. So variable var is 6. If var is equal to 6, of course this condition is true. Variable name is Taye, and here we are saying alert my name is Taye, and this will alert my name is Taye. Let's go to the screen and see the results. we have this. But I will change this from var now to let, and we're going to see a different result entirely. Sorry, let's I'll change this also to let. Now, if we run this, it will tell me that name is not defined. This one will not work. Now you might be saying that why is it not? Okay, let me refresh. Why is this still saying that I'm coming? This is coming. I want to test something. Aha. So what happened with name? Okay, I think this name, let's use another variable. I say hey. Okay. Now it's not displaying it. And when you come, it's going to throw back an error. A is not defined. Sorry, A is not defined. If this were to be let, sorry, if this were to be var, it will work fine. It will alert. It will alert my name is Taye. But if it were to be let, it's going to throw back an error. It's telling me A is not defined. So why is it like that? Let's discuss the reason together. So there's something we call scoping. Scoping is the scope, like the jurisdiction. Mrs. Walker.
So we can't hear you, sir.
It's your network, man.
We can't hear you, sir.
It's your network.
I can hear him.
I can't hear you, sir.
It's probably from your end.
Okay. Let me message her. So at least you should see this message. Okay. So now we have variable this. If this were to be let, somehow it's not working. And I said this is because of scoping. There's what we call scoping. Scoping is the jurisdiction of a variable. A variable can work within its jurisdiction, but outside its jurisdiction is not going to work. Now, when you are talking about var, variables created using var, the jurisdiction is within its function. Within its function. That is why when you create a local variable, you create it inside a function. You can't use it outside that function. var, it is function scoped. It is scoped within its function. Now, when you create a variable using var inside a function, you can use it anywhere within that function, but you can't use it outside the function. Now, on the other hand, let is not even function scope, it is block scoped. Its jurisdiction is its block. Now, question is, what is the meaning of block? A simple way to explain block is that a block starts with curly braces and ends with curly braces. So when you create a variable inside a block using let, you can't use it outside that block. Now, if it's confusing, I will come here and create. Okay, we have a variable here already. Because this was created within this block, I can't use it outside the block. Do we understand? A block is a simple way to just understand block is just ask yourself, okay, the curly braces, the beginning of the curly brace and the end of the curly braces, where it is created. So this variable was created within this block. If you have a function like this, let me create a function. So this is a block. Do you understand? This is a block. If you have for loop, this is a block. Do you understand what a block is now? Do you understand what a block is? Mr. BC, did you hear my question?
Yes.
I said, do you understand
Yes.
what a block is?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So a block is a curly braces like this. So within a block, when you create a variable using let within a block, you can use it anywhere within that block. Meaning that if I create a variable here using let, I can use this let anywhere within this block, but I can't use it outside the block. If I try to use, let's say I create the variable b here, I can't use it here because I'm already outside the block. But when you create a variable using var is only scoped with function. So if I create a variable here using var, I can use it outside. I can use it outside the block, except when I'm dealing with function. How? If I create a variable inside a function using var, then I can't use it outside that function. Let's say I have variable c here. I can't use it outside the function. I cannot use c here. But let is within its block. So when I create any variable, whether here using let, I cannot use it outside the block. If I create any variable here inside the block, I can't use it outside the block. I can only use it within that block. That's the difference between them. Var only recognizes function, while let recognizes any block, whether if, whether for, whether function, any block. So once you're outside this block, you can't use it. You can't. So let's look at an example that will make us understand this even better. So let's assume I have variable c here like this. No, I'm inside this function. I created it inside the function. So if I come here and say alert c, this will tell me c is not defined because this is var and it's tied to its function. Now, if this were to be let also, it will tell me c is undefined. This will alert c is not defined. That's because this is a block. And so I'm trying to use outside that block also. It's not going to work. Now, the difference is now that if I come here and I create another variable here, let's say if c equals 7, and I get let d, let's say equals 1, I cannot use d here. I cannot use, I cannot use d here. That's because I created d inside this block and I can only use it within the block. But if this were to be var, I can use d here because I'm still within the function. Show you what. Do we get the difference between var and let now? Hello?
Yes, sir.
So let's move on. So that's then another thing that we also need to understand there is this. Here like this. If I have, let's say I have another if here. Inside this inner if, I can use d. I can make use of d. It will work. Let's say this is let. I can make use of d here. You might say that, well, I'm not inside the block. The truth is I'm still within the block. That's because the block of this d is this big if statement. Is this big if block. Show you what. The block of this d that d belongs to is this block. And since this second if, this inner if, since it's within this big one, then I can still use d inside this place like this. I can use d here, it will work. If I try to use d here, it will work. That's because the block of where it was created, the block is this. So I can use it anywhere within its block. Anywhere within its block. But let's assume I created it here. I created E here. I can't use E outside this outside this place. I can only use it within this place. I can't use it here. It will not work. Shut it, you are very.
Sorry,
Yes, sir.
sorry, Oga.
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Can you take that part again? Because you said a block starts with the curly braces and ends with the curly braces, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and we cannot use let outside the block.
A variable created with let cannot be used outside this block. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So let's look at this D. You see this D? It was created within this block. You know, this is the beginning and this is the end, Abi.
Yeah.
So I can use it anywhere within this if statement. So meaning I can still use it here. I can still use D inside this place like this. Because
Okay.
the whole of this if statement is within this bigger if statement.
Okay.
But let's now assume I created E here. This E cannot be used outside this place. Meaning if I try to use it here, it will not work because I'm already outside this place.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. So that's
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. So that's the way block scoping works.
Okay.
Then when you are using for loop, let's look at something about for loop too. Remember I said for loop is also a block, happy. Now I will change this to let's. Sorry, to var. I'll just remove all of this. I'll say this one is for. So if I come outside this loop and I say alert index, you may be surprised that it will work. It will. It will. That's because although I'm outside this for loop, but remember var only recognizes function. It only recognizes function. So this will alert 4 for me. It will alert 4. Normally, I should not be able to use this index outside this for loop. All things being equal, like it shouldn't be. But it's one of the problems with var. Since it only recognizes function, its own scope is function. And there is no function. So it's just going to take this as a global variable. So this is something like saying var is the same as just coming here to write var equals to variable index equals to 0. It's just the same thing. Whether I put it here or I put it here, they work in similar fashion. Do you get it? So I can make use of index here, even though it shouldn't be, but then I can. So when I get to the browser, you see this for. But if I try the same thing with let's, it will tell me you can't use, it will tell me this is undefined. Because I can only use this index within this block. I can't use it outside the block. So,
okay.
So we've discussed the difference between var and let. So please, I will advise you that you don't make use of var again. Just stick to let. Next, const. I want to discuss the difference between let and const. So const works like let. It works like let. The only difference between them is that you can change the value of let, but you can't change the value of const. So let's discuss. Const is constant. So when you const something constant, then you should be able to change the value. So let's look at an example. If I have const a equals to 7, and I try to change the value, a equals to 2, this will throw back an error. It will not work. Alert A. Let's go to the browser and see it. Assignments to constant variable. Like you can't change the value of a constant variable. So once you put a value inside it from beginning, you can't change the value. If you put anything here, you can't change the value again at any point in time to something else. Show you what.
So even if we change the value with constant, it will still not recognize the first value.
No, the first value, this one, will be the only value to it. Once you once you put a value here like this, anything, if you try to change it, you are trying to change the value here. This will be turned back and hell. It will always, you need to remove this before it can work.
Okay.
So once you set a value inside it, then you need to stick to it. Don't change it again. You can't change it. If you try to change it, it will throw back chaos. So this will work fine because I'm not trying to change the value here. Any question? Any question?
No question.
Okay. Next is we want to discuss this destruction. Destructuring is when you take parts of a variable. I will explain better. When you take part of a variable and you assign it to another variable or part of an item, when you take part of an item and you assign it to a variable, then we call that destruction. So you can either destructure an array or you destructure an object. So let's see how to destructure an array and how to destructure an object.
Okay.
So let's say I have an array like this. I can put any value here. So this is an array. I want to pick the first item in this variable and I want to assign it to another variable. With your knowledge of ES5 or what you've learned so far, all you need to do is to say let's say I can say first, I can call it anything, equals to AR index 0 Abi no. This will pick the first value here and to assign it to first. So but it should loop now.
Yeah.
So when you say index 0, you are picking the first value, Abi.
Yeah.
So you are saying pick the first value and assign it to first. So if I say alert first, it will alert 6. Alert 6. Remember I said at the beginning of this class that most of those things you're going to be learning now, they are not logic, they are just syntax, like different ways to do what you already know how to do or what you've already been taught. So now this is ES5. Let's see a better way to do this thing. With destructuring, I don't need to put this. I don't need to. So what I can do is this. I'll just come here and say, what do I want to destructure? I want to destructure an array, right? Because I want to destructure an array, I'll put square braces like this. So I can now put first here. I'll now say equals to here. You might be confused at what's going on here. This is the same thing as saying, look at this. Coming. This is the same thing as this, Abi. No.
Yeah.
So what happens is, if you pick the first value here and assign it to this first, as simple as that. Let's pick this 6 and just assign it to first. I can come here and put another value here. I can call this maybe second or any variable name of my choice, and I can call this third. So the first value here will be assigned to the first variable here. The second value here will be assigned to the second variable here. The third value here will be assigned to this third one. So if I say alert first, I will see 6. If I say alert second, I will see 8. If I say alert third, I will see 9. Does it make sense?
But sorry, array starts from 0, 0, 1, 2, like that.
Yes, sir.
But first here should be 8, not 6.
I don't get it. This can be any variable name of your choice. I can call it any name, second name, or another name. I just call it another, and whatever. Let's call this whatever. So what happens is the first item here, the index 0 here comes to index 0 here. Index 1 here comes to index 1 here. Index 2 here comes to index 2 here. So if I now say, if I say alert any name, it will alert 6.
Okay, sorry.
So let's, it's the same as just writing it as ARR also. Anyway, it will still work. Since ARR is this array, do you understand?
Yeah.
So first item here comes to the first item, second comes to the second, third comes to the third. So it does better than saying index 0, you know, it's better than saying maybe let any name equals to ARR index 0. Then I'll go to the next line, let another equals to ARR index 1. Then I'll go to the next third line and say let whatever. This is how you would have done it with what you've learned before now. Have you now?
Yeah.
But now this is much cleaner. Just this single line is doing the work of these 3 lines. So this is called destructuring. You have successfully destructured it. So we've looked at array destructuring. Let's go to the next one, which is object destructuring. Object destructuring. So we're going to create an object here together. I can call it maybe name. So department, CSC, school, oops, school, personnel tech. Oh, BCH. Let me use my department. Okay. So name tired department BCH school Lautech. I want to destructure these things. Now let's see how we would have done it with ES5. Then we see how to now do the same thing with ES6. With ES5, I can say let name equals to AR.name. So if I say alert name now, I'll say Taye. Show you what potential will be.
Yeah.
So let's department equals to AR.department. So if I say alert department, I will say BCH. Then let school equals to this. So let's do the same thing. Sorry. Let's go equals to AR.school. Then this school now will now be Lautech. This is with ES5. Let's see how we can do the same thing with ES6. With ES6 now you know, I want to destructure an object, not an array. So because it's an object, I'm going to make it of curly braces. If it were to be array, it would have been square braces, but because it's an object, it's going to be curly braces. So I will now say equals to AR. So what do I want to destructure as? I want to destructure the name, maybe, and the department. Let's just destructure 2. I can say name and department. So if I say alert name, it will give me Taye. If I say alert department, it will give me BCH, showing you alert.
Yeah.
Now, I now want you to note something. That when you are dealing with an object, the order does not matter. What does that mean? It is to be school. If I say alert school, it's not going to give me BCH. Instead, it will give me Lautech. When you are dealing with array, it follows the order. But when you are dealing with an object, it follows the key. This name, it will search for name here and assign it to this. You understand? It will search for school here and assign it to this. Not the order. If it has to be array, it follows the order. But when you are dealing with an object, it uses the key. So if I come here and say alert school, this is going to give me Lautech, not BCH. Not the order, but the key. Any questions so far? Sure you are.
Yeah.
Okay. How about others?
So you said something, sorry to cut you short, sir. You said something about E8. What's that?
E8.
Is it the short form? Yeah, you said something like E.
Yeah. I didn't mention anything
It,
like it.
it said E5 and E6.
Okay,
E5,
ES6. ES6.
ES6.
Okay, yeah. ES5 and ES6. Now, just like you upgrading things, So JavaScript also upgrades. JavaScript upgrade. What we've learned, most of those things we've learned, they are ES5 syntax. But
Oh,
there is a shorter way to do things called ES6. So what we are learning today is ES6. So almost everything you do in ES5, you do the same thing in ES6, just that you use shorter syntax. It's shorter. You write it in a shorter way. Except few things, like only few logic were introduced, but mainly ES6 was, should I say, most of those things in ES6 is just a shorter way of doing what you can already do with your ES5.
okay, so
Okay. ES stands for ECMAScript. Okay, let's move this on. Focus. So now, in this case, the order does not matter when you are dealing with an object. It uses the key, and that gives us a problem. Let's look at the problem together. The problem is
Go
this:
back.
with what we learned in ES5, I can do something like this. Let my school equals to arr.school, right? Have you now?
Yeah.
So the value of my school will now be Lautech.
Right.
Let's try to do the same thing using ES6. Let's remember we want to destructure an object. So my school equals to AR. Now if I say alert my school, this will give me undefined because remember it uses the key. And since there is no key inside this place called my school, so I understand it. There is no key here called my school. So if I say alert my school, it will give me undefined. Do you get this explanation?
Yeah.
So since there's no key there, it's going to give me undefined. I have to say undefined. So let's solve this problem together. So what I can say is this. I want to pick this school and assign it to my school. So I can say that since I have school there, I can say go there, search for school, and assign it to my school. As simple as that. So if you come here and look for school, it will pick it here. Then that school will now be assigned to my school. So if I now say alert my school, it will now give me Lautech. Show you what I
Yeah.
If I still need the name, I can still start name. So if I come here and I say alert name, it will give me Taye. But my school. Now, if I say alert school, if I say alert school, Koni shell, it will give me undefined. Because you are only
yes.
using school to assign it to my school. So every time you use school itself, it won't work. Do we get it?
Yes.
Okay. So this is object destructuring in ES6, and we're going to be using it a lot in our next stage. Our next stage is React.js, and when we get there, we are going to be using destructuring most of these ES6 syntax. We're going to be using them very well in the next stage. In fact, at the beginning of the next stage, I'll be revising these things with us. So we are done with this. We are done with this. Let's go to the next one. Let's look at spread operator. Spread operator. That's because what this means. What do you understand by someone spreading something? To spread something, how do you understand this thing? When you say, okay, spread this thing for me.
To scatter something or to make something more visible.
Okay, thank you, sir. To pour out something, Abby.
Yeah.
So that's the same thing it also works. That's the same way it works. When you are spreading things, you are pouring out its contents. So So I'll say you can spread an array and you can also spread objects. So let's see how to spread an array. Here I come and say variable a equals to, let's have this array. So if I want to spread out the content, if I want to pour it down, all I need to do is the syntax for spread operator is 3 dots, 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 like this. Dots, dots, dots. Let's go to the browser and if you understand what you're doing now. Remember I've already created a variable here called a, happy? So I can come here and spread it dot, 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 a. Please not recognizing it. Why? Oh, it's not recognizing it. Okay, let's use it here. When I say dot 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 a, you are spreading it out. And that's 11. Do you understand? So when you spread it, now the problem is this. The way it's going to see it here is this: 5, 7, 9. At it, that's 11. So you actually need a container to cover it because it's actually an array. When you pour down the value, it looks like this. So you can now keep it. Oh, sorry, I wrote 5 instead of 6. So when you spread it like this, what you are doing is you are pouring out the content of that container. So I'm pouring it down like this. I can now house it with another thing. Now it may look somewhat confusing, but let's explain this more. So I can say variable b equals to dot 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 a. Do we get it? We are pouring everything in a inside this place. So this is going to be 6, 7, 9. Just you are there. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Now, if you are not getting it, let's go right again. If I say dot 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 a, this is the same as saying b equals to 6, 7, 9. Now you might not be thinking that why not just come here and put a? You might say that, but look at the difference. It's going to give you a different result entirely. Let's say you want to add some other values. Look at how it works. This is b. Inside b, you have a, you have 10, you have 12. Let's say console log p. Look at the first value. You see this is an array, Abby?
Yes.
So when you open it now, this is it, then this is the index 1, this is the index 2. But the index 0 is actually an array. That's not what we want. Instead, I can do it like this, dot 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 a. So look at the result and look at the difference. Look at it now. Shall we go share it? Are we getting this? Show you all. Are we getting it? Are we getting it? Okay. Shall we display there? If I want this 6, 7, 9 to be between 10 and 12, all I need to do is to spread it here.
Okay.
All I need to do is to spread it here. By spreading it here, it will be between, we have 10, 6, 7, 9, 12. Show to you again.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the results. 10, 6, 7, 9, 12. How come about that?
Okay.
So this is how to. Sometimes, okay, now Tawati next stage. Sometimes when you have an array, half a logo go to an array inside another array. So I understand then. Go to an array, half a low, nínú another array. So ilé ìtàkùn máa máa tún kọ lẹ́yọ̀ kọ̀ọ̀kan yẹn. Ìtàkùn máa máa tún kọ. So a better way to do it is just to spread it.
Okay.
So this is spread. Well, all we are doing is to prepare you for the next stage. The team will introduce the ES6 gun because you're going to be using this syntax. So next is we want to see how to spread an object. So let's say you have an object here. So I want to use all the information here inside another object again. So all this information I need inside another object. So let's say I have another object. That second object contains everything here, but with some other information that are not here. So I can now spread it dot 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 a. Then I can now add new information. Okay. Show to you again. So uma copy going got one b. I paste here CB. Then how about I add a label? So can you see the results now? Then how many minutes? Look at the class by 11 minutes time. Okay. Next is this when you are dealing with object spreading like this, you need to the order matters. In fact, the position matters. Look at this. If I come here and say name is Kenny, you know, I already have a name inside A, have you?
Yes.
But you see this one, it will override the one inside this A. Because object uses key object in malo here. Key malo. So we already have a key here called name. When you see this one will now override this. So when you get to the browser, you will not the name will be Kenny, not Taye. Show you what then. Shall the name is Kenny, not Taye. But now the other matters because let me take this one out of this place and I'll put it at the beginning or before this. So now the name will first be Kenny. Tabati was spread there. The name inside this A will now overwrite this Kenny. So the name will now be Taye. Can you understand? Name will first start as Kenny and get to this place. How are you? Oh, this one also has name inside this. So the name inside this A will override the name inside this place. So when it gets to the browser now, the name will be Taye, not Kenny. Shall we put name is Taye? Okay. So this is how to spread objects. So we looked at destruction, we looked at variable declaration, we looked at spread operator. The syntax is dot dot dot. So we continue from here in our next class.